Yes.
Okay, hi everybody. How's everyone doing? Good.
Oh my gosh.
Are you guys awake? It's like 4 o'clock. All right. My name's Maggie and I'm here from ATI. So there is a candy bucket going around. So hopefully you guys have some energy once you get to that. The bucket, where is the bucket? Can someone raise their hand where it is? Okay, so it's in the middle. It'll make its way around. When it gets kind of low, just let me know. I do have some more candy up here. Okay, so my name's Maggie Thompson and I'm here from ATI today. So ATI is a resource you guys have throughout your entire nursing program. So I understand you guys are sophomores. In terms of the whole program, you have a couple years left in the program, but there is this thing called the NCLEX that your professor mentioned, and ATI is going to be here throughout the program to help you guys get to those graduation requirements, but also prepare for boards. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about ATI. We are going to talk about the NCLEX. We're also going to go over briefly how to create your accounts, load your product code. Can I just get a show of hands? Who loaded their code, made their accounts already? All right, awesome. Snaps to you guys. If you haven't, I'm going to do a very, very fast overview of how to do this and provide you guys your codes. Then we're all going to go on the website together. I'm going to do some website navigation. So as you guys start to get assignments from your professors, you know where to go to in your account. So you're going to have a lot of resources in terms of tutorials, assessments, remediation, and then some NCLEX prep at the end. So in terms of ATI, like I said, it's preparing you to meet those graduation requirements. It's accenting a lot of things you're learning in your classroom, but it's also preparing you guys for NCLEX. So when I say NCLEX, what's the first thing that comes to your mind right now as sophomore students? Anxiety, far away. What else? Did I hear internal screaming? Okay, I like that. I've never heard that before. I have heard deaf before, and I didn't really know what to do with that one. So anything else? What else comes to mind? Passing, good. That's a positive one. What else? Nurse. All right, good. So in terms of the NCLEX, who's known someone that's taken their NCLEX or licensure exam before? Okay, a lot of you. What did they tell you about their experience? Go ahead. It was nerve-wracking. What else? Go ahead. You get your results in a couple days. Good. What else? Don't make me start calling on people. You don't really know if you passed or failed. Okay. When does the NCLEX happen, guys? After you graduate, yes. So the NCLEX exam or your boards or your licensure is something that happens after you guys graduate. Now, while someone said that it's a little bit far away, it'll be here before we know it, right? And you're learning things right now that are going to prepare you for that exam. The licensure exam, your NCLEX, is going to test you on everything you've learned in your nursing program. So stuff you've learned early on in your fundamentals courses, all the way through to your more specialty courses at the end of the program. Have we had select all that apply questions yet? Yep, yes, you'll see those types of questions. You'll see multiple choice. You'll see, which we're all probably very familiar with. You'll see things such as fill in the blank, identifying things on charts, putting certain steps in order. So there are a lot of extra pieces on top of the NCLEX that make it that stressful thing at the end. Have we heard of computer adaptive testing? Or CAT. So some of you are shaking your head. So that is the way that the NCLEX is structured. So if I was in the NCLEX right now and I get my first question right, the next one's going to go up a notch in terms of difficulty. Okay, so if I get that second question right, the next one's going to go up a notch in terms of difficulty. So it progresses as you're answering questions right. Now, if I get that sixth one wrong, it's going to drop down in terms of difficulty. So for some of you that knew people who've taken the NCLEX, they probably said a bunch of different questions in terms of when they got out, right? And you can get out as early as 75 questions for RN students or be in there somewhere between 75 and the full bank of 265. All right, it depends on how you're answering your questions wrong. All right, right. So because of that, it's an extra level of anxiety, right? So on the screen here is just some pass rate information. for people who were in your shoes not too long ago. They went to a nursing program, they met graduation requirements, and they tested in the NCLEX between January and June of this year. So almost 96,000 students took, or graduates took their boards, and about almost 90% of them passed on their first attempt. So that's pretty great. But looking at this data, not everybody passed. And out of the students that did not pass, a little over 17,000 decided to go back and repeat on that second attempt. So gut reaction from you guys. What do you think is the probability of these 17,000-ish students? Do you think they have a higher percentage chance on that second attempt, lower percentage chance, or somewhere in the middle? What do we think? All right, let's do a poll. Who thinks higher? Raise your hand and raise it proud. Okay, good. Who thinks lower? Raise your hand. Okay, who thinks somewhere in the middle? Who thinks I have no idea? All right, honesty, good. All right, someone higher. Who thinks that it would be higher and why? Someone brave, share their reasoning. Go ahead. Okay, so they know what to expect. They can kind of pre-plan for that second attempt. Anyone else thinking higher for something different? All right, who's thinking lower? And I know there was a population in the back that raised their hand. What do you guys think? Why would it be lower? Go ahead. Good, so you're really far away from your program. You're not in that mentality anymore. Time, good. Who else can think of a different reason for lower? Go ahead in the back. Yeah, testing anxiety. Who's experienced testing anxiety here before? Most participation yet. Awesome. All right, so there's a couple different ways it could go higher or lower. Anyone else have any other thoughts before I reveal what happened? Take silence as no. All right, so let's see what happened. It is lower, okay? So the lowers had it. It's less than 40% chance on your second attempt. Third attempt right now is less than 27%. Every time you take this exam, your probability of passing decreases. Who's shocked? Yeah, and I think your classmates already mentioned a couple of the big pieces as to why there's such a gap between 89% and 39%. Testing anxiety. That's a huge piece, right? Anxiety can do a lot to you. Testing anxiety can be a big factor on your testing performance. And it can come in a lot of rare forms. You could start to panic and not have access to that content knowledge anymore. Or you could maybe have a question, you answer it, and then you kind of go back on your gut reaction, right? Who's ever second guessed a question they've answered before and they go back? Yeah, exactly. So testing anxiety is huge. Time is very big, all right? So for you guys, we're graduating in May 2021, right? So while it is a far way from now, it will be here before we know it. And when you guys graduate, we want you guys to test very soon after you graduate. Not the day you graduate, but very soon after. So if I was in your cohort with you guys, and maybe I go and take boards in the first week of July, that's still very soon, especially if I did an NCLEX prep course. But let's say that I'm not successful on that first attempt, and I might get discouraged, I might get in my head, and I don't go back to test until November. That's definitely not setting myself up for success. Let's say after I graduate, I just have a lot of life stuff going on. I've got weddings, baby showers, vacations, things like that. I'm not keeping the content fresh. I'm not in my nursing program mentality anymore. That content isn't as fresh. When you graduate, you're like a glass full of water. Every day you wait, the water evaporates, right? It's the same with nursing content. So time is big. Can anyone think of any other factors as why there's a gap between 89 and 39%? But those are the two big pieces. Go ahead. Some people don't go back. Yes. Anyone else? Okay, so again, this slide is not meant to cause further anxiety. If it has, that's why I brought candy, okay? But this is good information to know in the beginning or beginning parts of your program, right? You guys are gonna have a lot of testing in your program. You're gonna have a lot of content that's covered. And really to start to train your mentality, you wanna go in thinking the first attempt's the one that matters most for everything, because it's the one that matters most here. No one wants to go into a test knowing they have a 40% chance of passing, right? No, you want all of the possibility of passing. So this is another reason why you guys have ATI as a resource, all right? So you'll find that your faculty ask you to do something for class in preparation for maybe class, your lab. You might have something to do as a homework assignment in ATI. You might have a practice assessment to prepare for one of our proctored assessments. All of our resources are aligned to the NCLEX blueprint, so our goal is to help you guys be successful in your program, but also be successful on the NCLEX. So when you get to that graduation point, you have that content knowledge, but also that confidence to only worry about the first attempt here on the screen, okay? You guys are a hard bunch to read. So does anyone have any questions, thoughts, feelings, concerns at this point? Go ahead, question. So I'm going to answer this kind of in twofold. You can answer these outside of even having things signed for class. So you guys have a lot of resources in your resource bank where a lot of you probably went onto your account and there are like so many different product cards. So all of them have a place in terms of what you're learning in your program. If you already learned something, you can still access those resources. If you completed something, you can still go back and re-access them. Over the summer, your accounts don't shut off. So you can use them in between sophomore and junior year to senior year. When you guys graduate in May 2021, we're not going to turn off your accounts. You will have them for an additional year. So I won't be in the parking lot turning off your account access. You'll have access to all your ATI resources 1 year after graduation, so until May 2022, because we want you guys to have those resources when you're preparing for boards, especially if you found something very helpful in your program. Did that answer your question? Okay, good. Any other questions right now? Okay, so what we're going to do now, guys, is I want everyone to go to atitesting.com. This is the website you guys went to when you created your accounts, for those that already did. This is also the website where you're going to go to sign into your accounts when you have something to do, whether it's in class, in preparation for class, at home, or if you're just studying. So I'm going to toggle out of my PowerPoint right now. So when you get to the atitesting.com website, it is going to prompt you on the screen here, asking you, are you prepping for the TEAS, which is our admissions test? Are you a nursing student or are you an educator? So you guys are always going to click on a nursing student. Once you start to go on our website enough, it's going to remember you as a student, so it's not always going to ask you that question. When you're on the atitesting.com website, what you guys will do is click on login, okay? This is where you guys will go to log in if you ever forget your username and password, because we have a million different username and passwords for multiple different sites. On the bottom here is forget username or password. So if you ever forget, you can always click this. It can give you an email activation sent to your email on file, or have you prompt to ask security questions. Now, I know there's a bunch of you that have not created accounts yet, so I am going to go over this process right now. If you've already created your accounts, please go ahead and sign on to your accounts and hang on to your home page right now. We're going to catch everybody else up. So if you have to create an account, what you guys will do is on this student sign-on page, you'll go up to the top where it says create an account. You'll click this and go through the 7 prompts to create your account. So the first prompt here is all about your username and your email and your login information. So we only require 1 email address per account. So if you have an ATI account with your primary email address, you cannot use that one. You could reactivate it or pick another email address for this account. Your username does not have to be your email address, but it could be if you want. So everything with a red asterisk is required to move on to the next prompt. So after I put in my username, my password, my email address, and confirm it, I will click continue down here to go on to the next prompt. The second prompt is all about your security questions, so things you can answer to reset your password if you need to. So pick things you know the answer won't change. The third one's going to ask you guys for your contact information. I can promise you that ATI is not going to show up at your house. You don't have to put your primary address. You could put one on campus. It doesn't matter. It's just for your account purposes. The fourth one is going to ask you guys for your graduation information and also your institution. So On this slide here on the screen, it's going to show you how Widener is listed in our account. So in our system, you want your account to be associated with Widener U. That's how we list Widener University in our system. Graduation date is also important on this page because we give you 1 additional year of access to ATI. So for you guys, the magic date or month and year is May 2021. If you don't know the actual date you're graduating at, just put May 30th, okay? That way it'll have you at the end of the month that you have access all throughout that next year, okay? After you go through the institution information, then it's going to ask you for demographic information. So you only have to put what has a red asterisk. The 6th one's going to ask you guys if you want to see email addresses from us. You can opt into our email listserv. If you do not, just don't opt in. The last one's going to ask you guys for accepting our terms and conditions, and then you would have created an account. So you can do it now. If you have any questions, I am going to hang out at the end to help any of those that still need to be onboarded. That's step 1 for creating your account. Step 2 is adding your product code. So what I'll do is I'll sign on to my account. So if I just created my account and I need to add my product code to my account, you only have to do this once, but the product code is specifically only for your specific class. So if there's anyone watching this recording that is not a sophomore, you have a different code. The code I'm going to show you guys is for everyone that's in this room, and it's for the sophomore class. So the junior class has a different code, the accelerated class and freshmen, they all have different codes, all right? So if you have to add this code to your class or your account, at the top is an add product button. I'll click this and I can input the code into my account and click continue. So I will put this up on the screen. For those of you who haven't added this code to your account yet, this is the code for the sophomore class. So it's capital CDN 0062654423. For those of you that already added this to your account, you don't have to add this again. It's just a one-time add. But for those that need to add this to their account now, please jot down this code, take a picture of it to add to your account. Okay? I'll leave this up there for a minute. Does anyone have any questions about creating an account, adding the product code, or anything thus far? Does anyone need the code on the screen for another couple seconds? Okay. Did the candy bucket make its way to the sides of the room? Who didn't get candy yet? Raise your hand. Okay, thank you. Who hasn't gotten a candy bucket? So I'll start on the side. Does anyone need more time with the code? Are we okay? Going once, going twice. All right, I'm gonna leave it up there for 10 more seconds, so please jot it down so we can progress forward. Or take a picture of it. If you're having trouble, take a picture of it. If you're having issues creating your account or adding the code and you're getting any error message, I will help you at the end of the orientation, I promise. All right, I'm gonna close out of this, but I will have it up at the end if anyone needs it. Okay, all right. So what we're gonna do from now is I am gonna go over how to navigate the website, all right? So we're gonna open up some resources. So this is where if you already created your accounts and you loaded your product code, you can definitely follow along with me, all right? So on the home page, this is the page you guys will go to every time you log into your account. So it's your first landing page onto your student account. So while there's not all direct access to your resources, it shows you what you've recently logged into, some news from ATI, and also some really cool tools to use throughout your program. So on the side here is just some nursing related news from ATI. This is all applicable to nursing students. So some of it's about back to school orientations that you can join outside of this orientation today. We also have best tips, how to use your account. We also have webinars you guys can join as students in future. Some could be about resume development, some could be about interviews, some could be about NCLEX, some could be about picking that right job after the school. So we have a lot of different things that can help you throughout your whole life cycle as a student. So if you see something that sparks your interest, like for instance, this one here is Back to School Basics, upcoming ATI student orientation. If I wanted to join this one on top of coming today to the live orientation, I could read this little clip, click here to actually register for this orientation. Okay, if you're having one of those weeks where you need to, you keep saying, I'll come back to this art, I'll come back to it, it definitely is something I want to look at, and you missed that it's not up here on the 3 that are queued, you can click the See More option, and here we have all of the articles posted for the last year. Okay, so same thing, if something sparks your interest, you simply click it. So here's a giveaway that we're doing for some free stuff. If you're interested in joining this webinar, we are giving away some free stuff on here, okay? In the middle is your recent activities. So what I really like about ATI is you don't have to sit for the entirety of doing a tutorial, a quiz bank, a practice assessment, things like that. If you have something due for class and you don't have a consecutive hour, an hour and a half to sit in front of your computer and do it, you can break up that work. So if I had this communication quiz that was due this Friday, it shows here that I'm in progress of doing it, so it saves all of my work. So if I close out of my account and log back in later that night to complete it, it saves right where I left off. Okay, so you can use that with all of our tutorial, quiz bank, simulation, practice assessments, remediation type of resources. The only thing you can't use that with are our proctored assessments. So you guys have a lot of tutorials in your Learn tab, which we will get to next. You have a lot of quizzes, you have a lot of practice assessments and remediation, but you also have proctored assessments. So proctored assessments are things that happen in class monitored by your faculty, okay? These are the only things you can only do in one sitting, and you must complete it in that sitting, okay? So you can kind of think of those as like your ATI finals for that course. You'll have proctored assessments on big content areas like fundamentals, pharm, mental health, med-surg, peds, OB, stuff like that, and it'll be in those courses towards the end of the semester. So that's the only thing you cannot do in piecemeal, okay? So if I wanted to complete this quiz, I could click on from this little bar here, and it'll take me right back into where I last left off. Up here near where that Add Product button is something you guys are going to have in your account called ATI Pulse once you guys first take one of your proctored assessments with us. So you guys have practice assessments and proctored. So really the difference between the two is the environment in which they're given in. So practice ones prepare you for proctored. Proctored ones happen in class. They're monitored by your faculty. They are the ones you have to do in one sitting. They might hold a little bit of weight to your course grade too. Your performance on the proctored assessments will activate something called Pulse, all right? So Pulse is our algorithm that looks at your performance on these assessments, then gives you your predicted probability of passing NCLEX based on your performance on those assessments. So this was my student account. I took a fundamentals assessment. I didn't do so well, and I had a 21% predicted probability of passing NCLEX based on my performance. So I didn't do well, all right? This Pulse algorithm only looks at first attempt proctored assessments. So there you go, there's that first attempt making the most difference there, okay? This 21% for me will only fluctuate based on my first attempt proctored assessments to come afterwards, all right? So if this is based on my fundamentals proctored, the next one might be pharmacology that I can take next semester at the end of that course, and maybe if I do well, it'll increase, okay? If I don't do well, it could decrease. All right, and it works like a traffic light. So on the screen, it's 21%. It's in red. It highlights that I'm at risk, okay? Yellow means you need improvement, and green means you're on track, okay? So while this doesn't take into account your work and your tutorials, your quiz banks, or your practice assessments, we do track your usage. So looking at this screenshot here, I had a 29% usage of my student account. So one way I could help prepare myself for those proctored assessments to come to help increase that 21% is to use my resources more. All right, so some of you might have courses where your actual tutorials hold a little bit of weight. Some you might not. all right? But the resources are there for you to use and to help you on those proctored ATI assessments, okay? So you might have noticed that my Pulse is not on my home page. I cannot turn yours off, I apologize, but you have to look at this as a resource. You want to know if you're not doing well in a program. You want to know if you didn't do well in a certain content area, because remember, everything you learn in your program comes back to you in terms of NCLEX. Okay, so if I didn't do well in fundamentals, that content's still going to be covered basically throughout the whole program, but also on NCLEX. So you're going to want that pulse check on where you're at with NCLEX readiness. Any questions on Pulse or anything I've said about that tool? So right now in your student accounts, you will not have a percentage yet. We'll start to track your usage. This will activate in your account once you take your first proctored assessment with us, okay? Okay. All right, so the My ATI tab is where you guys have all of your resources. So if you click on that tab, it'll show a couple of different tabs for you. All right, so in the Learn tab is where you have the majority of your resources right now. So this is where you have your tutorials and your ebooks. All right, so you guys got your big box of books from ATI? Yeah, so those are your review modules. So you have those in ebook format on your student account as well, okay? They're the same things, but there are actually videos and pictures in your ebook, which we will go into. You also have tutorials. So at the top of each resource, it says exactly what it is. When navigating through the Learn tab, it does go by alphabetical order. So everything on my first column starts with an A and it progresses down. So if I'm looking for the skills modules, they'll be towards the bottom of my account. If I'm looking for Farm Made Easy, it's going to be towards the bottom of my account. Okay, if I'm looking for the ATI student orientation tutorial on my account, it's going to be at the top. When you're navigating through, and maybe in the latter parts of your program, you're looking for really specific resources to help you with certain content. Maybe you're just looking for mental health things, or maybe you're trying to review stuff and you're just looking for fundamental resources. You can use the content dropdown and filter your Learn tab to just show resources by a specific content area. So if I just want things in fundamentals, I can do that, and you see how my Learn tab shrunk to just being resources to help me with fundamentals. Same with maybe dosage calculation and pharmacology. I can do that, and it shrinks to those resources there, okay? So think of the Learn tab as where you guys have those types of resources. Each resource is on its own individual card, and I will open up one of the ebooks to show you guys how to open something up. So I use the type drop down just to jump to the ebooks, and I'm going to click on the RN ebook library. It's going to open up the card, it's going to do a little flip, and then I can access any of these resources. Okay, so I'm going to jump into one of these books. So I jumped into the Adult Med Surg book, and again, guys, this book is the same. That's the one that's in print in that box. It's just got a lot of extra multimedia resources I want to point out for you guys. Okay, so this is the same book that's in print, so I can use the arrow to progress through to chapter 1 here. And everything you guys do saves in your student account, especially for your ebooks. So I will click to chapter 1 here. So health, wellness, and illness. All right, so our books by no means replace the books you have to use for your classes. They're additional, they're supplemental. Students like them because it brings kind of everything together at the end. It's very bulleted, need to know information. So as I scroll down through this chapter, you start to see those bulleted need to know information. So if I wanted to make a note, highlight, or hyperlink something, I could highlight the text with my mouse, unclick it, take a note, highlight, web link, or hyperlink. So I can highlight these pink if I wanted and make a note maybe here. And again, everything saves to my student account. When you're in your ebooks too, you don't have to use the arrow to progress through all the different chapters. You can use the content drop down. You can also search by a key term. So say faculty says a term in class, you can type that. It'll then show you on every page where that term comes up in your ebook. On the content drop down too, so you can jump to different chapters here. If you also have enrichments, so if you're a visual learner and you commonly like to go to Google or some other type of resource to look up videos and pictures based on concepts you're learning, you can use the enrichments tab here. So if I was in chapter 5 here and maybe gangrenous toe came up, this lovely picture is going to pop up on my actual ebook. Okay? Let's see if you guys are still with me. All right, so you get those videos and pictures when you're in your ebook reviewing content. All right, if you like to add the actual physical book, it'll have media reels next to content where we already have vetted videos and content there for you. Okay. You also can see from the tab here, there's also quizzes in here. So these quizzes are different than the quizzes you have in your student account, the items you'll see on practice tests, and also the proctored test. So you have a lot of questions from ATI. If you take the quizzes in your ebook, it highlights the content if you missed that question wrong. So that's kind of nice too. All right, so you have a lot of resources here. This is just one of them. So if I wanted to close out of my account, or close back and go into my student account or back to my student account, I will click close at the top right and it'll take me back to my Learn tab. Okay, so again, the big picture, guys, with the ebooks is that they're the review modules you have in that box you already got. They're on your student account. The student account version has videos and pictures, and it has quizability. If you like the ebooks and you want to have them on the go with you all the time and not rely on internet access, we do have an app that you guys can download. It's called the ATI Reader app. So if you have space on your phone or your tablet, or if you have a fancy laptop with app capability, you can have that on the go with you. Okay? So let's open up one of the tutorials. Okay, so I'm going to toggle back to all, and I'm going to open up something called Nurse Logic. So Nurse Logic is one of the tutorials you guys have. This is one of those strategy tutorials. So you have a lot of very content-specific tutorials, like your dosage calculation, that's going to be all of your med nav. Pharmacology made easy, that's all going to be about pharm. This is about how to think like a nurse. So we've got knowledge and clinical judgment, nursing concepts, priority setting frameworks, testing and remediation. So I'm going to click on testing and remediation, and I'm going to jump into the actual tutorial. So it's going to prompt me, do I want to continue where I left off or start over? So again, this is an example of how you can do things in piecemeal. So I'll click start over.
Welcome to Module 4.
Okay, so you might not have heard that, but there is audio with our resources too. So if you're ever doing something in class or in preparation for class, I always recommend to bring headphones. If you forget them, you do have closed captioning with all of our resources too. So to get through something like this, you'll work from the top down on the table of contents. All right, all these plus signs mean that there are actually subsections to this actual tutorial. So I can use the continue button to progress through.
Faculty developed tests.
And now this expands that whole section of the module.
You take these tests to assess
so looking at this, guys, this is all about testing. All right, you guys have a lot of assessments throughout your whole nursing program. This is a strategy tutorial all about assessments. So you have test taking strategies, how to read test items, all those different types of alternate format items you guys have. Preparing for our tests, preparing for faculty developed tests. So we have those types of resources in here to help you guys with those strategy pieces, how to think like a nurse, your clinical judgment skills, your clinical reasoning skills. All right, at the end, there are some drill questions to test you on the content that you have learned. When you're going through one of our tutorials, we also have a tools bar. We always have tools bars, and they're different for each resource. So always check this out when you're in one of our tutorials. We have a critical thinking guide, we have a calculator, we also have a talking glossary. So this glossary has all of the nursing terms that are deemed need to know. Some of these are pharmacological therapies, some of these are concepts, some of them are basic A&P pieces. Okay, so if you come across a term in nursing or one of your classes where you're like, I've seen that before, but I just don't remember, or maybe you come across it and you're like, I have no idea how to pronounce that. You can come in here and look through these. So if I was not sure what this term was, I've got a definition, related terms. I also have a pronunciation key up here that I can click to hear it actually being said to me. Okay, so you have these types of resources in your account to help you out. So just like the ebooks, I will click close at the top and it'll take me right back to the Learn tab. Any questions on how to open up something on the Learn tab, how to close something out, how to get through something, the tools bar, anything like that, guys? Okay. So the next tab over is your test tab. So this is where you guys are going to have your assessments, your practice and proctored, and also your quizzes. So if you're on your test tab now, you guys should see Learning Systems RN, but you might not have as many product cards as I have. Your faculty enable assessments when it's time to take those in your program. So if you know you have an assessment coming up, you will see it enabled when it's time to actually start it. But we are going to open up the Learning Systems Quiz Bank. So I'm going to click on Quizzes 34. That 34 means there are 34 quizzes in here, all by different content area. So there's at least 2 in every major content area, but some have more than 2. So we've got communication, community health, a comprehensive final. We've got 3 for fundamentals. Scrolling down, gerontology, leadership, maternal newborn, and there's a bunch for med surg and so on. Okay, so what I'll do is I'm going to click in fundamentals final. And since I started this, it's going to bring me to that last question I last left off on. So I've got the question up here on the screen. All right, it's a standard multiple choice question. So you will see select all apply, fill in the blank with these, but this one is that standard multiple choice one. So with our quizzes, if you click the show hint button, it'll actually give you hints as to how to answer the question. So it's highlighted a couple of phrases I should really be paying attention to. So I'm sure that you guys have heard already, or you've experienced this, where you see a question and you're kind of like, well, every answer looks like it's the best answer, or it looks like the right answer. But there could be a couple of key words that makes all the difference when answering that question. So it highlights the stem of the question that you should really be focusing on. It also underlines a key term. If I was not sure what that term was, I could click on it, and it's going to open up that talking glossary for me. So that can also help me answer the question too. So I'm going to click the first one here and click continue. So I got it correct, that's great, but I get rationale to make sure I was on the right page for why that was the best answer. Maybe if I click the second one, I could get some clarity if I was supposed to do the first one like I did up here. Okay, so I'll click continue. Same thing, multiple choice. I can click the show hint button. There's only one hint here, it's an underlined key term. I can click the second one here, that's what I think it is, and click continue. So I got it incorrect, but I can look at the rationale to see where I misstepped. This interface is exactly what you guys will experience when you get to those practice and proctored assessments, okay? The only difference is quizzes have show hint, assessments do not. Okay, so these are good resources to use in preparation for an assessment or in preparation for maybe a faculty assessment. It shows you questions in that content area and gauges where you're at with content knowledge. Okay, any questions on the quizzes or the test tab, guys? So think of the test tab as where you guys have, where we're testing your knowledge, okay? The improve tab is next. So this is where we have actual study plans for you based on your actual performance. And you guys will see from my scores that I am not a nurse, so please don't judge me. But we'll open up one of my assessment scores. So if I scroll down to one of the RN assessments I took, so I took a leadership assessment recently, all right? So you have a practice, you have 2 practice and a proctored. So this leadership assessment practice A was the first one that I took, and I got a lovely 18.3%. So what this focused review is going to do, it's going to allow me to improve on my areas of weakness. So ATI looks at how you did on that practice assessment. It notices all of the questions you got wrong in terms of what content was covered in those questions, and it's making a study plan for you. So I will click on the review piece. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my focused review and see all the content that queues up. All right, so I'm basically studying in preparation for my next practice assessment B. So this looks very similar to that Nurse Logic I opened up before, where there's got a table of contents on the side. So what I will do is expanded to see what question content area I got wrong first. So I got a life planning question wrong, all right? And more specifically, I got something wrong teaching assistive personnel about do not resuscitate orders. So as your guys' remediation, what you will do is you will locate all of the information that cues up here that addresses that content area that I missed. But the first thing I want to do is locate my active learning template. This is the template or the concept map I'm going to use when looking at all these resources. So I will click over here to download and print this out. Then I will read the chapter from the ebook that we pull for you where this content is covered. So I'll read this whole chapter, take notes on my concept map, and then I'll watch these videos that cue up to that address the content area that I missed. So your focused review is not telling you, Maggie, you got this question wrong, here's the answer, here's how you answered, here's how you should have answered. It's saying, Maggie, you got this life planning question wrong. All right, let's make sure you're better prepared the next time you have this type of question so that you answer it correct. All right, you're probably thinking, well, why can't I see the question? And in reality, guys, you're never going to see that question again. All right, but you're going to see something like it, whether it's on one of our assessments or it's on the NCLEX. So let's make sure you know all of there is to know about that content. Okay, so after I go through this content here, the next thing I got wrong was an advocacy question. All right, and more specifically, empowering staff to be client advocates. So I will locate this active learning template. I will fill this out while reading this chapter and watching all of the videos that queue up. All right, so each content area I missed, I will have my own study plan for, okay? So because this is an assessment where I got an 18.3%, I have a lot of information to cover, all right? But if you take assessment after assessment without addressing where you missed content, you're not gonna see increases in score, which is why this piece is so important when preparing for assessments. All right, so you'll do practice assessment A, you'll do your remediation, all right? If you spend the time in this content, you'll see a jump in score from A to B, all right? So you're doing test, study, before you even take that proctored test in class. That's monitored by your faculty, that's linked to that pulse score on your homepage. Everything kind of making a full circle now? Yeah, okay. Any questions on your focused review? Okay, so this isn't coming tomorrow, but it will come in the future. Okay, so again, what you guys are going to be really focusing on and using resources, especially in the Learn tab with all your tutorials and your ebooks. Your test tab is where you guys are going to take quizzes and assessments. When you're preparing for proctored assessments, you're going to take practice assessments in your test tab and review in your improve tab. So Learn is where you go to learn. Test is where you test your knowledge, and improve is where you study and build off of your areas of weakness. Okay? Up at the top is your My Results tab right next to My ATI. So this is where we capture all of the information in terms of what you're doing in your student account. So how much time you spend in something, what your score is on something, your actual time spent in something. So if you have something required to do for class, all right, maybe you have to print out a ticket to class that day that you completed something. This is where you would go. All right, so you can go to the individual piece. So if I had to do just an individual performance report on one specific resource, I'd find that report on my results tab. If I'm supposed to bring an ATI transcript to that to show everything I've done in ATI, that would be the print report up here. Okay, so, and the top is the proctored, in the middle is the practice, and down at the bottom are all of my tutorial reports. Okay. If your professor does not require you to do this, but you still have something due for class, your faculty can see everything you're doing on ATI. So if you have something due for class and it holds course credit, my best recommendation is to do it completely and do it on time, because Big Brother is always watching, okay? In terms of your My Results, they are instant, okay? So in terms of proctored assessment reports, these are a little bit different, and I do want to go over this piece with you guys. So when you have your first proctored assessment in class, you don't freak out if this is your score that you get. So on the screen, this is a score report for someone who took the Adult Med-Surg assessment, proctored in class and got the score report after they were done that actual proctored assessment. So they got a 66.7%, and that equated to a proficiency level 2. So our assessments are normed and weighted, so they're not out of a 100% scale. So this is not a D, but the proficiency level that's circled up here for level 2, that means something. So what it means is we rank them in terms of 0 to 3. Okay, so a level 2 means fairly certain to meet those NCLEX standards in that content area. Level 3 is very likely to exceed. Then we've got 0 and 1, which are not likely and just likely. Okay, so when you get a score report like this, what you want to look at is your proficiency level. Okay, you want you guys to strive for a minimum of a 2, but ideally get that 3. Okay, we also provide you guys normative data, which shows how you did on that actual assessment compared to the entire nation, and specifically just for BSN. So looking at this, 66.7% compared to national 61.4, and a program of just all BSNs across the country was a 59.3. This actual 66.7% score was actually a very good score. So it just takes some time to get used to, but with proctored assessments, we give you a level from 0 to 3, okay? When you're taking those practice assessments, those are the ones that just give you a raw score like on the screen. So you want to see a jump from A to B using your focused remediation, okay? All right, guys, the last thing I want to point out to you guys is the help tab. So this is where you guys can go to get access to help you with your student account. So we have videos over here, user guides. We also have technical requirements and support. So if I click that here, it shows me what browser versions I should be using on ATI. It also shows me operating system. If you bought something recently for school, or maybe when you were a freshman, you are fine. I would say anything over 5 years old, you just want to double check the operating system. And we have all of those listed up there. You can use ATI on any device, so tablet, iPad, iPad mini, Kindle, laptop, desktop, you name it. It just has to have the minimum technical requirements here for operating system and also browser. So browser is important too. Check out your device, make sure that your browsers do update when there is an update available. Okay, so if your account is not working, you definitely want to check this out to make sure it meets all those technical requirements. Okay, we can use any type of browser in terms of Google Chrome, Internet Explorer, Mozilla, and Safari. I would encourage you guys to use Safari, Firefox, or Google Chrome over Microsoft Internet. It's just they're better overall optimal performance on those browsers. Okay, so that was a lot of information. I will be hanging out here up front. If you guys have any questions, I do have my email address on the screen. So if you guys run into any questions along the way, you can email me. You saw from my scores, I cannot help you with nursing content, so please don't email me that stuff, but I can help you with how to use the website. If anybody needs any help creating their account or loading their product code, please come see me down front. If not, good luck in your program. Thank you. Good luck.